Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel where I share great ideas and how to do things. The last video I put up was how to make these spoked wheels that are quite fantastic and easy to make. But anyway, I want to make a car now that I can put them on. I have a very easy, simple way to make very realistic cars, and so I'm going to show you how to do that on this model. And I've mentioned this before, is you find a picture of something you want to make, and then you enlarge it, and I've chosen so it fits on a regular size piece of paper. And also the wheels will match the size of the wheels on when it's blowing up there. So if you enlarge it till the wheel reaches that particular size, in my case this is 2 inches in diameter, and that's a very common toy wheel that you can purchase anytime. And as you've seen on these models here, they were just bought wheels and then remachined there, 2 inches. So it makes a nice size toy that kids can play with, and they're fairly durable, and kids will really appreciate having them, especially your grandkids if you're older, to have something that their grandfather made or father made. I think it's a great idea. So it's very simple. As I've shown here, I have the wheels to the size of the pattern. Then I just take some pieces of wood that I've already cut out here, and that fits the size of your model, bringing that right down to the bottom. And so it covers the whole project. You might want to even take and cut the pattern, cut the shape of the car off. And then I need one more piece to go on to complete the roof. When I was doing this, I had 2 pieces because I cut the board in half, but I'm not going to need that. So this is a lot higher than the hood. But the trick to do this is when you have this, when you're making it, and I made a mistake once when I made one, is when your hood line here, you don't want it to come through this glue line here. You want it to be all in the wood, and it'll look a lot better there. So make sure when you're doing it, stack it up, use extra wood, whatever, so you don't get the slant of the hood coming through a glue line. And that's what I've done here. And then because it comes up higher, then I only need 1 piece for the hood there. So anyway, you just take and you glue up a bunch of wood till you get to a block there. And as far as width goes, I believe I have this about 3 inches. And it may be around 3 inches or less. I think I'm going to plane this down so it's actually less, more like 2 3/4. Once you figure out the width so it looks good, then you just continue to make them, because most vehicles sit on standard roads, so a lot of times they're all the same width. Anyway, I'm going to take and glue this together and machine the sides here, and then I'll show you a little bit more on this. That was pretty easy, and it didn't take very long, right? Anyway, I've got the piece all prepared here. I've cut it the edges smoothed off where the glue was, and cut it down a little bit. Actually, the end result I want is closer to 2.5, so I've got about 2 5/8 this time, so we'll see how that works. Then you take your picture and you cut out the basic outline shape of the car, and then all you have to do is put it on your block and trace around the outside, and that's going to be the shape of your car. And that's pretty easy. Anyway, I'll go cut that out and then plan the next step here. Okay, that step was fairly simple. Now, the next step here, you have to be a little creative and do a little bit of sketching, because we want to draw on the side here what the inside of the vehicle will look like. You're going to have a front seat and a back seat, and place for your feet, and that. So you just roughly sketch it out using the windows as a guide, and did a pencil. And this is sort of what this one's going to look like here. And it'll have an interior, but may not be perfect. But anyway, I think that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead. Another thing a person could do is cut that right out, right to the floor here. And see, just about dropped it. And even back here, and then add seats. And I'm almost thinking of doing that this trip. But I'll cut it out like this and show it to you, and then I'll make a decision whether I'll cut that out and put separate seats out of different wood. Okay, I took the bandsaw and I've cut that out. You can kind of see how it looks there. You got a front seat and a back seat, and that's where the roof will be. It's all done in one piece, which makes it very quick and fast. So right now I'm just sanding the inside of that out a bit, and you can make a little sander with some old belt sander material. I got a coarse on this side and a finer on this side, and that's working quite well. A lot of these other ones, I use this unit here. It's a belt sander. That's fast and quick, but I'll use this more on shaping when I get to shaping the outside, because there's a fair amount of material to remove. So with this, it's actually quite good. You can just put it through there and go for it there. And inside here, it doesn't have to be very smooth like you would the outside, where you're going to put a finish on it. I put a finish on here. Quite often I usually paint the seats and down around the floor and that with black. But being this is the first one that I've made out of walnut, I'm kind of thinking I'm just going to leave it the same, and maybe because it'll turn dark anyway. So it doesn't take a lot of work to finish this off. And then the next step will be to shape the sides of the car. Now this is flat, one side to the other side, exactly parallel. But cars aren't parallel, especially the older ones. The nose part comes in quite a ways for the radiator, and the whole side is curved. Now, on these other models that I've made the sides straight and then tapered into the radiator at the front there, as you can see how that goes there. And if you're making a first model there, I'd suggest you do that. Getting a little bit of sun through their window there is just a straight side here, and then put it that way. But on this model here, I want to put a gentle curve from the front to the back. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult when it comes to the fenders, but I want to give it a try. So I'll continue working on this. I've sanded up the inside here, and it's fairly presentable. Anyway, the next stage is to taper the front of the car, because the radiators are a lot smaller than the full width. It wasn't until we got to later models in the 50s that the front of the car was the same as the sides. So, as I mentioned before, this is one of the trucks I just mentioned. On this one here, I had a piece of wood here, piece of wood here, so it tapered rather abruptly and to the point there. Then on this truck here, it's got a smooth curve on it, right, starting here to right to down there. What I did there is I cut the center section straight and then put a piece on. Problem with that was it was thick in this area here out by the window there, and then I had to work it down inside to get it so it wasn't a real thick window and up front here. And that worked okay. I think you can see the glue line there. But in this model here, I've got a little different idea that I want to try. I want to when I put this wood on the side here, I want it all in one piece, and it wants to curve. And two ways I could do it. And I'm going to try to take a piece that's not too thick and see if it will actually bend into that shape when I glue it on. If not, I could curve a piece on the bandsaw and sand it to fit, or I could use two thinner pieces and put it on there. But I'm hoping to do it all in one shot this time. So anyway, you'll see which method I use here if you stick around a little longer. So what I'm going to do now is I've put on the bottom here and the basic curve. The front is going to come around and curved, and then the back possibly too. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do that. I might be able to just curve it with the extra piece that I put on there. It would make it a lot better to have this, a lot easier, let's say, if this is straight up to here and then starts to curve. So I'll go cut that on the bandsaw, and then I'll sand it into shape there. I think I may show you the sanding part there so you can see that super sander that I made. If you haven't seen the videos on the construction of this sander unit here, it can be mounted on the lathe very easily, and or it's on its own motor assembly there. Anyway, I just think this is great, and so you get to see it work in action here again. I'm going to sand the sides of that. So we'll put the dust collector on and go for it. Wasn't that easy. You'll just love the sander if you go ahead and make one that's so easy to make. Anyway, that's a nice smooth surface here, curved right around there, so it only takes moments. Well, I've made my decision with a little bit of experimenting, and I'm going to take a thinner piece of wood, and it'll just bend around. I've made some pieces here to clamp it, and I'll just put it in the vise and it'll clamp up. I tested it out on some just some regular birch material there. It seemed to work okay. So then the next step is to locate where the windows are on this piece before we attach it. And to do that, you've got your pattern that you took from the piece of paper. It's just a matter of tracing. I've cut the windows out there, so we just trace through there, put it on, trace through there, and then we have our windows located. So I'll go ahead and use the scroll saw to do that. Anyway, that won't take very long. But before I can glue those on, I have to make a steering wheel and get that put in there, and maybe do a little bit more work on the inside. But we'll have this sides put on here in no time. Okay, I got my pieces all ready to glue on the sides, and as I mentioned there, I put a steering wheel into it there, so just put in there. That's about the only thing you need to put in there. You could put pedals and all that sort of stuff, but it'll be down inside and you won't be able to see it very good anyway. And I've cut out the windows for the side. It's going to all go on there. And let's see. Oh, and I've marked the back where it's going to go on the behind there. I chipped out a little wood when I was planing it here, so anyway, it'll clear it there, so it should be okay. Anyway, I'm going to give this a shot. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I guess you won't see the whole project, but I've got these pieces here, and I'm only going to glue on one side. It's just a little bit too much when you have slippery glue on both sides and try to get it into the clamp there. So I'll go ahead and then I'll show you what it looks like clamped up. Well, that seemed to go together very easily, but as you can see, I added some extra clamps, especially at the top there, and to get a glue joint. I slid it up out of the vise after I got it clamped in with two clamps at the end, so I could get a good clamp at the top there. But so I'm just going to let this dry so it's well glued, and then I'll put the other side on. I think that was a good idea, not just to do one side at a time, although it was quite easy, but you know how it is when you have extra pieces.